mean first ever, so this will be a collector's item, edition of Pucks Deep right here on Stadium Rant. There's three of us here covering the entire North American continent. My name is Rob Cattell. I'm located in New York. I'm happy to be joined by my West Coast associate, Carly, and our colleague north of the border, Ishmael. Everybody wave hello. So since this is our first show, I guess we can give a quick little rundown of who we are and what we're all about. And then from there, we'll get into this wonderful season we like to call NHL season 24-25. So let's do that. And hopefully if there are people out there listening or watching, feel free to participate, join in, say hi. We're not shy. We'll be happy to talk to you. Anyway, as I said, my name is Rob. Live in the area of New York. I actually live on Long Island. So most people that don't know anything about hockey assume that if you live on Long Island, you're an Islander fan. Well, hate to tell you, no, that's not the case. Born and raised as a New York Ranger fan my whole life. I've been fortunate enough to have tickets with my family for many years. So I've gone through the ups and downs, mostly downs, of being a Ranger fan. You know, not having more than one cup in 85 years, it's kind of hard to be a fan, but I am. I was fortunate enough to be there back in the old days of 1994 when they did win a cup, and it's probably the greatest day of my life. I even tell that to my wife, and she has to accept it. Team has been going up and down the last couple of years, and coming off last season's President's Trophy campaign, a lot of people this year in this market who are Ranger fans thought this was going to be a very good year. But as we all know, this season has not started off that way. The team has been a disappointment. There have been some trades before the season and during the season up until most recently, which we'll get into. And the question will be, will the team be able to get there for a playoff run? That remains to be seen. But we still have about 30 games left in the season, so we'll see what happens. I think my knowledge of hockey is pretty good. Been a fan my whole life, played it, and hopefully my opinions will either excite you or tick you off. We'll see how it goes. So that's my story. Now I'm going to turn it over to my West Coast compatriot, Carly, to let her tell us a little bit about herself. Carly, go ahead.
Hey, so I'm over here in California, right in the Central Valley. A lot of people think I'm a California fan of either LA, Anaheim, or San Jose. I'm a little partial to San Jose because I am closer to that area, but I'm actually a Vancouver Canucks and Montreal Canadiens fan. And I've really just gotten into hockey within the last 3 years or so. So I was not born and raised into that. I just kind of found my way along that. So I'm fairly new, I guess, in the world of hockey. I enjoy writing about the NHL and all the news breaking things that, we get to hear about and learn and throw to you guys. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm going to pass it over to Ishmael.
Yeah, so I'm from Toronto. I'm from a little suburb in Toronto called Mississauga. Yeah, so I'm from Toronto. In case if it isn't obvious, there you go. So I live. I live just 2 hours away from the U.S. Canada border. But I live close enough to Toronto that I'm able to watch my Toronto Maple Leafs, and I love the Leafs a lot. Actually, I started watching hockey for a while, but I did not get into it until recently because I started a sports journalism graduate program at a local college here in Toronto. So I was initially like a more football basketball fan, but when I learned about how rich the tradition of hockey is in Canada, and I learned about how easy the sport was here in terms of how to follow it, and how affordable it was to watch the local OHL games. And yeah, when I went to these local games, I got attached to it. I got attached to my local Brampton Steelheads, which were formerly my Mississauga Steelheads, and I just fell in love with the game, and I've been watching them since.
I think the perspective of all three of us is kind of interesting because you got a person like myself who's been following the sport for well over 30 years. I'm a little older than I look, but that's okay. But then you also have somebody who's relatively new to the sport, and somebody who's, wasn't even born in the United States, who's picked up the sport, which I think is amazing, because I've always thought that hockey is an international sport. You can obviously tell that by the fact that hockey is probably the best league where players from all different nations can participate. And we'll, of course, get into the four-nation face-off during the show. But I love the fact we all will have different perspectives, and hopefully that makes it interesting for people that are listening to the show today. I guess we should start off, guys, by now that the season is underway. Obviously, it's been a very interesting season for a lot of reasons, good and bad. So I guess we could probably start off by saying, let's get a recap of what you think the season's been like so far for the league as a whole, maybe your favorite team as well, and then also what have been your surprises so far this season, and what have been your disappointments so far. So Carly, let's go to you first. Why don't you give us a recap of your opinion of the season so far, and like I said, the surprises and the disappointments that you think you've seen this year.
Yeah, so like I said, I don't have a lot of years that I can really compare this season to, but for me, really is just watching the Capitals. I feel like last year they really couldn't get anything done. They were middle of the pack, if not lower, and now they're sitting second in the league. So I just think that shows just so much growth on their end of things, not including Ovi and what he's done for that team and for the league as its own. Few other things is I'm going to throw it over to San Jose. It's not so much of a surprise. I mean, they are sitting last in the league again, and they're going to until they can finally get their feet under them during this rebuild. But just watching Macklin, Celebrini, and Will Smith, we already knew they were going to be powerhouses when they showed up. But just watching the way that they have grown within the league, coming from college hockey where they didn't have a game every single night or every other night, and then just having to really transition. So I just think, again, like it's not so much a surprise because we knew kind of what to expect from them, but I just think that they've already done so much for the Sharks organization. And I mean, look at the record. It's not the greatest. Like I said, they're the last, in the entire league, but just kind of, if you watch their games, just the way that they play is just dynamic. And I think it just really brings that team better. And I know they're going to be starting and going through their rebuild, especially with those two. So I just think, again, not a surprise, not a disappointment, just because we already have an idea. But it's just been fun watching. And if you are a Sharks fan, I mean, I watched the game last night. And so just watching Lane Hudson and Macklin just compete against one another, going from teammates to now rivals for the Calder Trophy it was just awesome to watch. So I would just say the biggest surprise for me is just the Capitals kind of finding their way this season. Last season, I wouldn't even put the game on. And this season, I'm going to watch it because they're exciting. And that's just my opinion on that.
Trust me, there's nothing exciting about a rebuild with any professional sport. No. But unfortunately, all teams go through it. It's just a question. Yeah. Does the management that is in charge of that team know what they're doing? And, San Jose has a good management system. Mike Greer, who I believe is awesome. GM, spent many years playing in the league. And he actually was taught by Chris Drury, believe it or not, who's the Ranger GM, to get, learn the ropes. And I think they got a good system in place. Their new coach they have after they got rid of David Quinn, I think will.
Yeah, Warsofsky's been really good with the guys.
It just takes some time, but they have a young nucleus. Of course, they added Barclay Goodrow from the Rangers in the offseason, and he's a great team leader and a great influence in the clubhouse. And he played there before, so he knows the area. So I think San Jose is only going to be looking up. And like you said, Celebrini and
him and Smith are just great.
They help.
And I think the downfall for that too is that their captain right now hasn't touched the ice since last January. So he's still present in the locker rooms, but he's not on the ice. So I feel like their leadership is also hurting them because they just have their alternate captains, and that changes with every game. So I feel like there's no set leadership, and that's a struggle right now. And they're not going to replace Couture until he retires.
Yeah,
maybe even said that.
Especially when you have a young team, you definitely need that leadership factor.
Yeah.
And if the player's not on the ice, I mean, case in point, look at a team like the Colorado Avalanche. Their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, hasn't played in, 2 years? Now, they're still performing and they're still winning, but I mean, how long
It's
do you go
different.
without your captain? You got to make some changes. So,
And I
but
feel like we have good veteran players. Like, Toffoli's been great, especially with Salvini and Smith. But I mean, with that, you had Granlund. Granlund was great, and then we traded him. So we have good veterans, but there's a difference between the leadership from your veteran players and then having a set captain on the ice.
100%. Ishmael, you're of course in the capital of hockey, as they say, although I don't agree with that. You're in Toronto.
Yeah.
Obviously, the one thing about the Leafs, they do have a very passionate fan base. They've gone, I think, now the longest without winning the Stanley Cup, and being a Ranger fan, I can appreciate that, because we went 54 years, I believe the Leafs have now gone 57, 58, something like that. So now why don't you give us your impressions of the season as a whole, and then your surprises and your disappointments?
Well, I think this is like we always say that it's a make it or break it season, but I think this time it genuinely might be, because John Tavares, considering the issues he had with the Canadian government regarding his pay, his salary, with the Canada Revenue Agency. I'm not sure if you guys heard it down south, but he had some issues regarding how much he has paid back. So, well, that's the issue you have when you're signing up with a team up north. So so regarding that, it's not put down in written, but the facts are that John Tavares is going to probably be leaving the Leafs after this season. So this is the time for the Leafs to win it. I mean, if they don't win it this time, then that window has just closed down for good. So they have to bring it home this time.
And I really think that the Leafs are going to be big players at the trade deadline, because, like you said, their window is closing. They got, between Tavares and Mitch Marner, they got some big name players there that they're going to be unrestricted free agents at the end of the year. So they're going to have to make decisions. Where do we go with this team? And that's a tough call. So, I totally understand that the tax structure in Canada, I know it affects all sports, baseball, basketball, and hockey, because their tax rates there are pretty high compared to some of the states in the U.S. So, like I said, right now the Leafs are in a playoff position. They'll make the playoffs. It's just a question of, can they get past, if the Boston Bruins get in, can they get past the Bruins? Because it seems like they play them all the time. So we'll see what happens. As far as I'm concerned, my plan is I collect hockey jerseys. So I plan on wearing a different jersey every show. I chose the Ranger one tonight. I'm actually wearing a Jacob Trouba jersey. Who's Jacob Trouba? We remember him. Oh yeah, he was our old captain. My perspective on the league this year is it's very interesting. It's almost like the whole league is becoming a parity, meaning so many teams are equal right now. If you look at the Eastern Conference, there are so many teams that still have a chance to make the playoffs right now. If you look at the league, besides teams like, let's say, Chicago and San Jose and possibly Nashville, every team still has a chance to get into the playoffs. That's a good thing, I guess, if you're a fan of that team. We remember the days back years ago when there were like these dominant teams and everybody else was far behind. But right now, if you're in the mix, you still have a shot, which I think is going to make it a very interesting trade deadline this year, because usually teams know by the deadline if they're buyers or sellers. But this year it's tricky, because a lot of those teams that may fade by then, I think they're going to still be in the mix. So it's going to be very interesting to see how a lot of the GMs in the league approach the trade deadline, including the Rangers, of course, which I'll get to. Surprises, obviously, got to give big props to the Capitals. I saw them obviously get, banged around by the Rangers in the playoffs last year. They were an older team. The thought was they were just going to let Ovechkin hang on, break the record, and then they were going to do a total rebuild. And what they did was they signed a bunch of middle-of-the-road players. No superstars, no big names, and, even in goaltending, they brought in Logan Thompson, who, was a cast-off from Vegas. And I'm amazed by how well the team has played. Their coach, Spencer Carberry, I think he's the youngest or one of the youngest coaches in the league. He was interviewed to be the coach of the Rangers last year before they signed Laviolette, and I wasn't impressed with him. I never heard of the guy. I'm like, I don't want him. But I got to tell you, he's right now in the running to be coach of the year. The guy's done an amazing job. The team's playing great. And obviously, Ovechkin, what a story. He's definitely motivated. You have to wonder if he'll break Gretzky's record this year. If he gets a lot of empty nets, it'll make it a lot easier. But they're playing outstanding. So I'd have to say the Capitals are my big surprise. I'm also very surprised by Winnipeg. They're a good team. They do make the playoffs usually every year. But this year, they started off the season like 15, 16, and 0. And they've kept it up. And they're tops in the Western Conference right now. I know that if the Winnipeg Jets make the Stanley Cup Finals, I know that the TV outlets here in the States will not be happy because they won't get a big number. But they're a great story, too. And Connor Hellebuyck probably is the best U.S. goaltender going right now. And I look forward to them doing a deep run this year in the playoffs. As far as disappointments, Nashville is my biggest disappointment, believe it or not, because they signed all these big-name players in the offseason between Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea. I'm shocked that they're not playing well. I really am. They had a decent team to begin with. They have a good coach in Brunette. But for some reason, it hasn't gelled there. And I think they're going to be one of the teams at the deadline that's going to unload a lot of players. I even think they might even trade Stamkos if they can find a taker for him. My other disappointment, obviously, is my team. You know, when you win the President's Trophy, you're supposed to have a chance to win the cup. And I looked it up before the show. I wanted to see, have there been any other teams that won the President's Trophy and the following year they didn't make the playoffs? I don't know if you guys know the answer to that, but I'll give it to you. 2015, in 2007, it was the Buffalo Sabres. 2015, it was the Boston Bruins. And believe it or not, in 1992-93, it was the New York Rangers. So the good thing about that is the next year they won the cup. So, hey, you know what? If they don't make the playoffs this year, if you tell me they're going to win a cup next year, we're all good. So those are my major disappointments so far this year. But, you know, like I said, we still got 30 or so games to go. Still a lot of time for a lot of these teams to make a move. And I'm sure the rest of the season will be quite interesting. So now that we've talked about that, I know, Carly, you have a nice sheet with a bunch of topics that we can discuss. So why don't you just grab one and throw it out there and we'll just go for it.
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that there's a goalie who I wanted to add in my list of good fortunate shockers in this year's season. So Dustin Wolf has been like a pretty good performer in this season. Mm-hmm. Considering that in 2019 he was the fourth to last player selected in the 2019 NHL draft, and he was the last of 22 goalies to be selected. And out of all those 22 goalies, he has played the fourth most NHL games. So, and right now he's running for the Calder Trophy award. So,
he's on fire.
Yeah. He'll definitely get some votes. I mean, he's definitely one of the top contenders for the Rookie of the Year. You know, he's not a big guy, but he's played very well. And Calgary is another team that, you know, nobody really expected them to even be in playoff contention this year, but right now they're in it, and a lot of it is because of Wolf, basically. So good props to you, Ishmael. You know, it's a good call there. I mean, he's played very well for that team. You know, especially after they traded Markstrom to the Devils. You figure they're going to be doing a rebuild, but they got a guy in Wolf, put him right in there, and you know the kid's been playing very well.
Yeah, it's a California kid for you right there.
There you go. That makes Carly happy.
I figured we can just jump right into some recent trades, especially like JT Miller headed your way.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys got him.
This one's personal for the both of you.
This one, I haven't come to terms yet. I miss him, but also he definitely, you could just see that he needed the change. He needed to go back. So,
well, I wrote I wrote an article for Stadium Rant, and I think it'll be up online tomorrow. People, if you're listening, Stadium Rant, read that article where I evaluate the JT
Quick
Miller
shout
trade. Here's the way I look at it. JT was drafted by the Rangers in 2011. He, started it as a young kid with the team. Tortorella at the time was the coach. Didn't really give him a good chance, so he was up and down between the minors and the pros, and I think it affected his growth. A funny story, and I mentioned this in my article. I met JT at a casino night in 2013, and we were talking, and we found that we have something in common, and it's very interesting. We both had a cat in our lives because I love animals. We both had a cat that we named after Alexei Kovalev, the former New York Ranger. I thought that was pretty cool about it. So from that point on, I said, "You're my guy, JT." But
you're bonded for life now.
Exactly, and I hear a cat in the background. As a matter of fact, here's the deal with JT Miller. It's a good trade for the Rangers because of the fact that salary cap wise, he's only around $8 million a year. We all know the cap is going up next year. The team definitely needs a spark. They're not a physical team, and what I've noticed in the 2 games so far, they're actually playing tonight. So yeah, they do tonight against Boston, but he's definitely added a physical presence to the team, which they didn't have, and it kind of wears off on the other players. They see him going around throwing his body. They're going to do it as well. He's a great offensive talent. He's not a great defensive player, so you got to make sure that whatever line you put him on, the players that play with him are going to be defensively supportive. We didn't get. I wasn't happy about giving up Victor Mancini. I will tell you, I've seen him in a few games this year, Carly. He's going to be.
I've heard good things.
He's going to be a player. He's a big kid. He skates well. He'll be a top 4 D-man for the Canucks next season.
Which is what they need. Quinn Hughes can't do it all.
Yeah, and as far as Heedle's concerned, Philip Heedle, let me tell you, I love Philip Heedle. He's a great player when healthy. The problem with him, he's got a history of concussions, and I hate to say it, he's 1 concussion away from retiring. I really feel that. I wish him the best of luck. I know he scored in his first game with Vancouver.
Yeah, he had a really good debut night.
He's a great center. He'll be a number 2 center as long as he stays healthy. But giving up him was tough.
Keyword.
Giving up a first-round draft pick to me is not a big deal nowadays because, first of all, the Rangers have 3 top draft picks from the past 3 years. They're all still in the minors. So, you know what? I don't really care about that. We got a couple of depth defensemen in Brandstrom, who will be a depth defenseman if we ever need anybody. And the kid Dorrington, I really don't know much about. I know he's still in college. So we'll see what happens with him. But overall, it was a trade that the Rangers had to make. I don't think there's anything wrong with what they did. It's just a question of, is this going to help them make a push for the playoffs? And that remains to be seen.
And honestly, you could see the change in him, like when he's been at Vancouver the last few months with all the drama going on between him and Petey, the media and everybody else getting involved with all of that. You could just see the change in the way he'd play. And then you see him as soon as he gets back with the Rangers, and then he scores 2 goals. So definitely that change is needed, and not just for the Rangers, but I think also just for him as a player. Like, he just needed to go back technically to his roots. But I also just think he was not happy where he was. And if you're not happy where you are, you're not going to change anything. So for his career, this was a good move. As a Vancouver fan, still in denial, but from the other aspect part, you got to do what you got to do.
Is it true right now in Vancouver there are 3 players with the same last name?
Yeah, we're collecting them like it's Pokemon cards. Yeah. So we have Marcus Pettersson, Elias Pettersson, and Elias Pettersson. So we have 2 D-men and a forward. So
can you imagine being one of the NHL play-by-play announcers for Vancouver, trying to figure that out all the time? Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
It's crazy. And then on top of with Vancouver, and I know we're talking about trades, but I'm going to keep ranting on this. With Quinn Hughes, I mean, if you've watched any Vancouver games, he's the only person playing half the time. So for him to be missing his 3rd straight game, he's not making it to San Jose tomorrow. They just released that information. So it is now questionable whether or not he will make it to the 4 Nations face-off. They actually won last night, but I just feel so bad. Just be like, he literally is carrying that team on his back. One person.
Yeah, he'll be in the running for the Norris again this year. And if I'm Vancouver, if there's any chance of him risking further injury in the 4 Nations, you know what? Guess what?
Nope.
You're not playing. because we need
And then
him
I
to
don't
stretch.
I don't know if you guys read it. Their GM, when they were talking about the JT Miller PD stuff, and right before the trade happened, talking about like if they were to start a rebuild, that Quinn wouldn't want to be a part of that.
Mm.
And I immediately thought, okay, the Devils need to pick him up so we can have 3 Hughes on one team.
No, 2 is enough.
Oh, come on, have some fun with it.
No. We don't want to discuss the Devils too much on this side, but that's okay.
By the
We
way,
can.
it's interesting that that since JT Miller has come back to the Rangers, like he scored 4 points in 2 games, so it seems like he's already like he's been on that top line. Seems like he's already made his way back home, and so it's already
Yeah.
felt like he's back home.
Yeah, what they did was they moved Zibanejad to the wing. This is the first time he's ever played wing for the Rangers, and Mika is one of the reasons the team's been a disappointment. He's having a horrible year, and if putting him with JT Miller can give him a spark to wake the hell up, that would be huge for this team.
Yeah.
Because between Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, who's also had a down year, even Adam Fox, God bless him. I love Adam Fox, but he's really had an off year too. These players got to pick it up. I agree, Ishmael. JT, the first game, he had no sleep. He just showed up in Boston and put the skates on, went out there, and I think it was all pretty much what do you call it? I can't even think of the word right now. He just went out there and just played. So
Yeah, he had fun with it.
He'll be fine. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens with that trade. So,
and what our viewers may not know is that JT had a no trade clause, but he waived it just to go to New York.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He asked specifically. Yeah.
And
I think he said that he didn't even ask Trocheck if he could move in. He just showed up.
Well, I read about.
They're like childhood best friends.
They're best friends. They grew up, I think, like 500 feet from each other in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I did not know that. So
that's crazy.
Another reason. He's from the Pittsburgh area, knowing that his best friends on the team. Trocheck said they always wanted to play together. Well, guess what? Now you're playing together.
Yep.
So wake the hell up and score some goals. Let's go. Come on. Let's do this. So, but all right. So that's the JT Miller trade. You wanna pick another one to discuss?
I think someone put Taylor Hall and Mikko Rantanen on there for the Hurricanes. That was a big one that happened 2 weeks ago.
Sure. Ishmael, you have any thoughts on that trade?
Yeah, so I have some numbers about that. So so before the trade, Rantanen had scored like 1.28 points per game for Colorado. After that, he had scored half a point per game in the 4 games for Carolina. Before Natchez has scored 1.1 points per game for Carolina. After he has scored a point per game for Carolina, including a power play point assist. So it's too early, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you think Rantanen needs to take some time to adjust, or is he just is it just imploding?
I think Rantanen wants his paycheck. That's what he wants. He wants money. He's looking for probably about $14 million a year next year. And the thing about Carolina, they are notorious about doing this. Last year they made a big trade to get Jake Gensel for the stretch run of the playoffs, and they couldn't re-sign him. He went off to Tampa Bay. Rantanen is a great player, although I will say this. I think the chemistry with him and McKinnon, I don't think it's going to get matched in Carolina. I don't think Carolina has a lot of good players. I don't see them having a great player. Rantanen's a great player, but you don't have a McKinnon type. Not that there are any McKinnon types in the league that will play with him. So I think you're going to see his numbers take a dip in Carolina. He'll still help them, of course, but I don't see him producing the way he did in Colorado. I really don't. Taylor Hall, God, that guy's been everywhere. What team has he not played for? He's played everywhere. But again, Taylor Hall is a good player. When he's healthy, he gets hurt a lot. I don't really see him making a difference. Carolina's going to make the playoffs. They're definitely in there. And I still think they'll make some other moves before the deadline. I love Marty Natchez. I think that he is going to be a great player in Colorado. He's faster than Rantanen, and I saw him up close when he came to the Garden playing with McKinnon. It was only, I think, his second game. He was flying all over the place. So I really think that Colorado's got the best of the deal in this aspect. That's just my opinion, because I don't see Rantanen going back to Carolina next year. What do you think, Carly?
I haven't really followed their careers all that much. I just know just like how much of a surprise. I was sitting ringside. We went to our local USPHL game that we have here, and I was just sitting ringside when I got the notification that the trade happened. Yeah, same with Taylor Hall. Like you said, like injuries are one thing. We should probably make a bingo card and figure out where exactly, he hasn't played. And kind of see, mark it off before trade deadline, see if he moves again, but I don't think he will. But yeah, the Rantanen, I don't know really what's going to happen with that. I'm just going to sit back and just kind of let the cards show themselves on that one.
Yeah.
I have no real big opinion on that.
I think the other big trade recently was the trade between San Jose and Dallas, where Dallas really good depth players and Granlund and Cody Ceci. I'll let you talk about it first. Obviously, you're a fan of the team. What did you think of the moves?
Well, I've always Granny has been great. Ceci, I was really excited when we got him from the Oilers, just because he had that experience with making it to the playoffs. Like he had just kind of that level of where he could actually help our players a little bit. Granlund was great for some of our younger players like Eklund, Zetterlund, and Smith. They usually played within the same lines. So he was definitely a big player in helping our young guns just kind of find their way. I wouldn't have made him a captain. He was alternate, but he still had that leadership level that the Sharks really needed. So making that trade definitely was needed because we got the first round pick for this coming up draft year. So we have a little bit more options to shop around. And they have a potential third round draft pick if Dallas makes it to the playoffs. If they don't, then it's a fourth round pick. So I feel like Mike Grier did a good job. Yeah, Mike Grier did a good job, as much as I'm sad to see Granlund go. But the two draft picks that we're getting, it's going to give them options that they can add to their depth, but also for this rebuild, we can start grabbing who we need to grab. Yeah, so I think it was a good play.
Yeah, those two players, they're not going to be long-term for San Jose anyway. They're older players. They're, so to get some pieces for them and some draft picks, I think it's a good move as well. For Dallas, I think it's a good deal because Dallas is banged up right now. I mean, they just lost Heiskanen, who's one of the best defensemen in the league.
Seguin's out.
Yeah, having Ceci to play there right now. And I just love the name Cody Ceci. I don't know why. It's and Granlund's going to help.
That's a good ring.
I believe that the Dallas Stars have more players from Finland than any team in the league.
Yeah.
If you look at their roster, it's called Team Finland. But
Team Finland.
Dallas is going to be one of the teams I think really has a shot to win the cup this year. So a move like that's only going to help them. And again, they're in a situation. They're in a win now situation. They have an older team. They got players like Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin. These guys are not young. So
and Tyler's out right now because he had knee surgery, or hip surgery. So he's completely out. So they're down.
True.
That's where the Granny comes in.
But you got a goalie there in Ottinger who is a really good goaltender too.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think that Dallas has a really good shot to make it to at least the Final Four in the NHL this year in the playoffs. Ishmael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like everything that you guys say. Like obviously on paper, like you might think that that this trade, it might seem like it's a bit too much. Sharks giving away their top scorer, but it's obvious that it's obvious what Sharks are trying to do. They're trying to get younger talent to center around Macklin. So I think, but it's obvious what Dallas is trying to do. That they're in all win mode right now. So I think this is exactly what they want to do. But for San Jose, it's all about surrounding around Macklin, Celebrini.
Yep.
So it's all about going young. And even Cody Ceci, he's been a very clutch superstar. On the Sharks, he had the second most game-winning goals on the team after Macklin Celebrini. So he's not just there for all the for all the skating around. He's a very good complementary player.
And in most games for San Jose, he was their top defensive player, playing also the most offensive well. Just looking just kind of at the record, he was always at the top. And so just kind of made me think of like, he was leading this team without really leading this team. But he always put his heart and soul when he was on that ice for the Sharks.
This is just the beginning, guys. I really feel we have about, it's like 6 more weeks or so before the deadline of March 7th. A little bit less, actually about a month. And I really think that because of the way that the league is set up this year with so many teams in the mix, I really feel this could be one of the biggest trade deadline years in a long time. I mean, look at not that I'm a fan of the NBA, because I'm really not, but look at the NBA right now. Their trade deadline, I think, is tomorrow. I think is their deadline. And
that's all you hear about right
they're
now.
trading everybody in this name and that name, but I think there's a bigger reason why this is happening, which I don't want to get into right now, as far as the league is concerned, but there's going to be a lot of trades. So we'll see what happens. So I guess that would lead us into another topic, which we can get into now. And that is, as of this weekend, the league is doing something very unique, and they're taking a break. There is no All-Star weekend this year, as they have done in the years past. And what they're doing for the first time is we're doing something called the Four Nations Face-Off. And for anybody out there who doesn't know what that is, the league is basically going on hold for 2 weeks, and they're going to be playing games in Montreal and Boston. And the Four Nations are the U.S., Team Canada, Sweden, and Finland. And the best players from those teams from the league are going to be on those teams in a round-robin tournament to see who's going to win the gold medal. And it's kind of a preview to the fact that next year the Winter Olympics will be back, and the NHL will be back in the Winter Olympics, which they haven't been in a couple of years. So Gary Bettman and his guys said, let's do a little preview so the fans get an idea what this is all about. The one thing that I'll say about this tournament, we could talk about it as much as you want. I wrote a column about this on Stadium Rant. I'm disappointed that it's not the 5 or 6 nations. And what I mean by that is I don't understand why Russia does not have a team. I understand the politics of it. I get it. Russia's at war with Ukraine. I understand that. And I guess the league thinks it would look bad if they have a team from a country at war. However, the way I look at this is if you look at other sports like tennis lets players from Russia compete in all their tournaments. They don't ban them. They let them play. They just don't recognize the country. My feelings are, and I wrote about this, you're promoting Alex Ovechkin as potentially the greatest goal scorer in the history of your league. They're going to promote the crap out of him as he goes for the record. Where does Alex Ovechkin come? Where does he come from? He comes from Russia. Yet the league will not promote the other players in this tournament. So I'm like, that's hypocritical.
Yeah, it is.
And honestly, when you put a team together, if you were to put a Russian team together, they by far would have the best goaltending of any team in the tournament. By far. Shesterkin, Sorokin, Vasilevsky alone. Besides the superstars they can have like Kucherov and Ovechkin, I think they're missing out on a big opportunity here, especially with Ovechkin winding down his career. So I'm disappointed they're not in it, but I don't make those calls. But I still think it's going to be a fun tournament. I want to get your guys' opinions on it. My feelings are, and I'm biased, I think the U.S. has the best chance to win due to the fact I think they have the most depth. They do have good goaltending, and their defense, I think, out of the 4 teams, if Hughes plays,
pretty solid.
Fox, Hughes, they're a good team. And I really believe that the surprise team could be Finland, because if you look at it, any international tournament, Finland always seems to sneak in there. They're very structured, very sound defensively. So I would not be surprised if Finland makes the gold medal. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be really exciting, though.
I will say Finland is going to be exciting because they have Kevin Lankinen from Vancouver. And if you followed his career this year, he's been phenomenal for the Canucks. But they also have Saros from the Predators. And I feel like he's had a hit and miss season, but for the most part, it's been better, more on the positive side. Mm-hmm. So I feel like their goaltending is going to be top notch. One thing that I'm kind of not so much worried about, but I'm just kind of I've been checking every day because, with with injuries with these players that are supposed to be playing, it's like, okay, well, who's on reserve, type of a situation. So look at Sweden's goaltending. Olmark just came back like 2 days ago or yesterday or whatever it was from an injury from 6 weeks. So that was questionable. It still is questionable because how healthy really is he? And then you have Markstrom who's out.
He's out. Yep. He's not.
So you have one healthy goalie.
Yep.
So who do you have as backup? Because I'm sorry, like you're not going to be able to compete with one healthy one. Like, okay, if Olmark's good, Olmark's good. But again, he just made his debut yesterday. I think it was.
Maybe
last
Henrik
week.
Lundqvist will come out of retirement. Who knows?
I mean, now's a good time.
Yeah,
now's
right?
a good time. Going to the United States, again, Quinn Hughes is questionable. They came out today with that just because he's missing his third game and has like a lower back issue, probably from carrying the team. But you also have his brother Jack, who has an injured hand. And so they've been, kind of working with him on that. Like he's still playing. But he hasn't been at practice. I don't think he was at practice on Monday or yesterday. So if you minus 2 Hughes brothers, who do you replace them with? I'm going to throw it to you guys.
The one thing I worry about more than anything is injuries. I mean, there are, I don't know, I haven't really looked at the entire roster in depth, but I do know.
I have it for you. I can read it off.
Well, okay, you're ahead of me. I do know that there are now 6 New York Rangers that are in this tournament.
Yes.
And they're all big names. Now, this could do one of 2 things. Sometimes getting somebody like Zibanejad in this tournament when he's had an off year, if he has a good tournament for Sweden, it can almost like springboard him for the second half of the season. But I'm telling you now, I have seen so many international tournaments, whether it's baseball, hockey, whatever, where somebody unfortunately comes down with a serious injury. And I pray to God that doesn't happen to anybody. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Connor McDavid got hurt in this tournament for Edmonton? The league
That's all we would hear about.
Oh my God.
All we would hear about. Oh my God.
I know. There goes my phone. It would be horrible. So I think it's going to be a great tournament. And
I think Canada's roster has really good depth as well. I don't think anyone on this list. Well, actually, last night, Sidney Crosby potentially injured, maybe not. So I read that today that he might not make it. He might make it for 4 Nations. But I think he's gonna show up. I don't think he's gonna let anything really.
No, I think he'll play too because his career is winding down. Also, I mean, I'm sure he'll be around next season to play in the Olympics. But again, players like players like Crosby, at the end of their career, they want to do this. And Crosby is he's a big name player when it comes to international competition. I still remember what he did to the U.S. in 2014 in Vancouver. So I don't want to forgive him for that. So, Ishmael, what about you?
By the way, that was in 2010 in Vancouver.
You got me. You're right. 2010.
Yeah, that was, I believe that was.
Into it.
That's right. Make me look bad, Ishmael. Thank you, sir.
No. Because the reason why I know about that was because that was like you guys have your Americans like Super Bowl. For us, that was the most watched Canadian telecast in history. So,
wow.
Were you in Canada at that time?
By 2 years, yeah. I was here. I was here in 2008, and that was in 2010. Yeah. So
I heard Vancouver is a beautiful city, and it's a place I'd love to visit one day.
Not anymore now.
No.
Yeah, you got fentanyl, you got meth on the streets.
Wow. There's a lot of places like that around the country. That's for sure. So
come to California.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So yeah. But by the way, so we were talking about all these about all these rosters. So I've got some numbers to back up my my info.
Ishmael's our number.
He's our number guy.
That right off the bat on our first show. He's throwing out all the stats. So okay,
right.
We'll call you the stat man. Go ahead, stat man. What do you got?
So since December 4th, when the rosters were revealed, I was looking up like Canadians with the best save percentage, and Jordan who have played at least minimum 10 games. So Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill, Sam Montembeault, the 3 Canadian goalies, rank 10, 11, 12 amongst Canadians. So haven't had the best stretch so far. So and all of them are barely touching 900 in save percentage. So
Mhm.
so probably the Canadians aren't having the best goalies in
Yeah.
don't have the best
No.
goalie unit. So the USA's Connor Helbach is the best goalie going into the tournament.
Yeah.
Like Orangers, Jeremy Swayman, all three of these are better than Team Canada's,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and definitely better than Finland and Sweden. So I
Yeah.
would say that the USA goalie unit is the best going into the tournament.
Mhm.
However, I would say just because of Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon, I would say Canada has the best forward lineup
Yeah.
than any of the teams. So
I don't necessarily agree.
I say Canada has the best forward lineup.
I
Yeah,
don't know if I agree with that. I would say they have the two main guys on their team, and McDavid and McKinnon. And I know they're both centers, but I can't imagine. Could you imagine both of them on the same line? Oh my God, be like Roadrunner. But I really think that the other countries have great forwards as well. I think, this is me personally, I could be wrong, that the downfall for Team Canada, as you mentioned, is going to be their goaltending. That's going to be their downfall. I think they don't have Carey Price to go in there and play right now, and they don't have Patrick Waugh to come in. Although he could, the way he looks right now, he probably could still play. I really don't see Canada even making it to the finals, to be honest with you. But that's just my prediction.
Ishmael, what's your take on defense?
I think when I checked this, Devon Taves, I think he looked pretty good. He had a plus minus of plus 18 efficiency. I didn't see anyone else even close to that, but I don't know, like yeah, like I'm not so sure about that part. Like I didn't see that part.
We expect you by
Well, in your
next
opinion, who do you think has the best D line?
Yeah.
Pardon?
There you go. In your opinion, which team has the best defense going into the Four Nations? Just in your own opinion, without stats.
I would say
You can be biased and say Canada if you
I'll
want.
say USA. I would say USA.
If they're healthy.
Yeah, if they're healthy, yeah.
If they're healthy.
Of course,
Yeah.
we're being biased here, living in the States, but I have to agree with you there. But again,
Although, like we said, Finland can come in and just prove
I
us
said
all
that.
wrong.
Let me tell you, Finland's
I mean, they got Granlund, Halla's back, like Rantanen. You got.
Yeah.
They're going to be very structured, as I told you earlier in the show.
Yeah.
Finland always plays a very structured system. So does Sweden, but I think Finland plays a more defensive style. Sweden's more open, like more offensive. I think it has in a tournament like this. I think defense is going to win more than offense. That's my opinion. I'm telling you, Finland. My prediction. I'll say it right now because the tournament hasn't started. And we could talk about it next week, but at that point, the tournament will be underway. I'm predicting a U.S.-Finland final. That's my prediction. You guys are more than welcome to throw out what your predictions might be, but I just see U.S. and Finland going in the finals.
I don't see like the Canada being beaten by Finland or Sweden.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a rival. I'm gonna go Canada-U.S. final too.
Yeah, I'm going with
Just
that.
want to see it go.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all going to put down our predictions, and we'll bet a Diet Pepsi on it, and we'll see.
Make it a Diet Coke, and we'll talk.
We'll see what comes out on top. But overall, it'll be fun. It's something.
Yeah.
The season is so gosh darn long. It's a long year, and especially we always call it the dog days of like January and February. It's like this. It's not the beginning of the season where you're all jacked up. It's not the end of the season where you're all excited for the playoffs. It's kind of in the mushy middle.
Yeah.
So something like this, I think it's a great idea. And I really hope if it's a success that the league does it every 3, 4, 5 years again. They did that World Cup of Hockey a few years ago, which I liked. They just never brought it back. So this could be fun. But I do hope, again, if they do it in the future, God willing, there'll be no more wars in this world, and they'll, add other nations to the tournament moving forward.
Oh yeah,
because there's a lot of players not getting the recognition.
Okay, and by the way, the only reason why I chose USA defense is because I'm pissed. Us Canadians didn't choose Chris Tanev in the Canadian lineup because go Leafs go.
Well, isn't he hurt right now though?
No. He was playing. He was playing like last night against the Flames, his former team.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
So we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah. By the way, I just want to show something to our viewers. I showed Carly earlier. This is what I got earlier in the day. It's the Four Nations official hockey puck.
Look at you. I'm gonna have to talk to you.
No,
after
I
this
was
show.
like, I'm
Get me one of those.
jealous.
Yeah,
Right? International shipping.
Ishmael, I might have to have you pick up a couple of shirts for me and send them here to New York for me. I'll have to reimburse you. That'll be cool. So
Hey, I'm gonna go to Toronto in May, so I'll just meet up with him, get him, bring him the States, and then get him to you.
So
done. Go him across the
Save on
border.
shipping.
I guess with the remaining time we have a bunch of other subjects on there. Carly,
Yeah.
anything out that stands out for you that you want to discuss? Throw it
Well,
out
I know
there.
we talked about Ovechkin, and he's only 17 goals right now away from beating the record. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But also I want to give a shout out to Jonathan Quick because he is the first U.S.-born goaltender to reach 400 wins in his NHL career. So that is an outstanding accomplishment. And then my last thing is that Marc-Andre Fleury has proved over and over and over again just how great he is, getting his 76th shutout in Montreal at 40 years old.
I got to tell you, I watched that game the other night with Jonathan Quick playing, and I kind of had really weird mixed feelings because obviously in 2014, he kicked my Rangers' ass to win a cup, and I hated him.
Yeah.
But he came to the Rangers last year. There were very low expectations. We thought it was at the end of his career. He was just coming for a paycheck. The guy was 38 at the time. He has hooked up with Benny Allaire, who's like the goaltending guru. He has transformed his game. He is playing like a kid. I watched him. The moves he makes at his age, I would be in traction because it's unbelievable what he can do. His style is just contagious, and he deserved that win. The guy is a Hall of Famer, 3 cups. And what's really cool about him, he's such a team leader in that locker room, what I hear, and he's all about the team. Whenever the media would ask him about individual achievements, he'd always divert it to talk about team first, team first, team first. And when they won the other night, the first player, Vinny Trocheck, skated and flew and jumped into his arms. The whole team embraced him. It was so cool to see. And I don't know what his plans are for next year. I mean, he'll be going on 40 years old. But what we all know is goaltenders seem to have longer shelf lives than regular players. And I really hope he comes back again because he is a perfect backup for Shesterkin in New York. And like I said, the guy's from Connecticut, local kid, and I just love him. And I can't believe I said that because I was cursing his ass out about 10 years ago when he beat us in 5 games in the finals. So, but yeah, congrats to him. I was really happy for him.
And I don't know if you guys watched the Wild game at versus Montreal when Fleury had his shutout. You just get goosebumps at the end, just, after his team lines up to, just hug him and thank him. And then Montreal stayed on the ice, and then the whole entire arena was just chanting his name.
Oh, the guy's been a great player.
Yeah.
I mean, he's number two in goaltender wins right now behind Brodeur. I wasn't even aware of that. It's an amazing achievement. And, he bounced around a lot too, from he left Pittsburgh, but wherever he's played, he seems to be loved by his teammates. And he just seems like I've never met the guy. He just seems like a very likable guy. He's always smiling.
He's like a kid at heart.
So
a kid at heart with all the pranks.
Even though he played for the hated Penguins in my life, he still is a good player. So yeah, congrats to him. And playing on Minnesota with my all-time favorite hockey player, Matt Zuccarello, I'm happy for that too. So
the wings are better.
Ishmael, you want to before we end this, I do want to discuss Ovechkin. You have any thoughts on Ovechkin?
Yeah, so by the way, he had a great start into going into the season. I think it was his best start, believe it or not, in his career. The beginning he had, and he was, by the way, on pace to get to 895 by this month, February, believe it or not. But of course, he had breaking his left leg with that shin-on-shin collision. Mm-hmm. But of course, all good things. We have to be patient with them. So, yeah, 800. I think 17 goals remaining. I guess.
Yeah, 17.
I think we still have time. We still let's just be patient.
I think
And
he can do it. I think
yeah, he can do it. I agree with you.
You know, I look at it. I look at it two ways. Wouldn't it be cool though? Because I really believe if he breaks the record this year, depending on what happens with the Capitals during the playoffs, this might be it for him. He might say, "That's it. I'm done." However, if he doesn't break it this year, he's going to come back for at least one more season, and that for hockey fans is just a joy. So I'm kind of hoping, in a way, he doesn't break the record this year. But like I said, if he keeps scoring all these empty net goals like he's been doing lately, I think he will. But I would love to
They're
see
just
him
handing
come
it
up.
to him.
Yeah, just come up a little bit short. So we have one more reason to see you come back this year. For, Alex Ovechkin is an awesome player. He's a player that he's so multidimensional. Even at his age, he is still a physical presence out there. He still throws his body around. Most players at that age would not be doing that. You certainly didn't see Wayne Gretzky doing that when he was playing, that's for sure. But no, Ovechkin's a freak, and he's scored many goals against my New York Rangers. But let me tell you, that guy has got an amazing shot, and he'll be recognized as one of the greatest of all time. Which again makes me annoyed that we're promoting Ovechkin, but we're not promoting any other player that comes from his country. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox and stop talking about it. So
you're good. And I also think, just going back with what Ishmael said when he, had his broken leg, back in October, November, I can't remember what month it was, but he was back on the ice within like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing.
He was making a point. He was like, "I'm coming back."
No,
and so I just think that's just,
and his first game was
crazy.
his first game was against my Leafs, so I don't know.
That was me. I'd been babying it, so more props to him. So, and then just the last thing is that I don't know if you guys saw Minnesota Wild Ryan Hartman was suspended 10 games.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys saw that against Strutzel on Senators.
Yeah,
that was like a WWE move on it.
Yeah.
Well, he is as they call it, a repeat offender, which is why he got that suspension. And I compare it to Matt Rempe of the Rangers, who, he's only been in the league a short period of time, but he got suspended last year for a couple of things. This year, he had one high check to a member of the Dallas Stars. The name escapes me right now, and 8 games right off the bat. And because of that, since he's been back, he's been very careful because he knows that the league is watching him. It's the same with Hartman. The league seems to watch these repeat offenders, and unfortunately, if you do it more than once, they're going to slap a big penalty on you. And, he's an important player on that team. He really is. So, they're going to miss him, between having him out of the lineup and Kaprizov out of the lineup. They've been struggling, but hopefully they'll all be back in time for the stretch drive, because I would love to see Minnesota do well in the playoffs. I really would.
And they're already having a great season, so it's just you're just hoping to keep that momentum and just kind of push on without him.
Well, also like when he had the hearing with the Department of Player Safety, he was trying to come up with an excuse that he was trying to regain his balance by using Stutzle. And then what transpired was an accident, and yet nobody was buying that. Like,
no.
Yeah, come on.
It'll be interesting. Before we say our goodbyes for our first show, and it's been awesome having you guys with me on here, and hopefully whoever is watching this is enjoying our content. And again, feel free to send us comments, messages. We'd love to hear from the fans.
Yeah, I've been reading the comments. They've been pretty good.
Ishmael,
Georgia's better than Igor.
Yep. I wanted to ask Ishmael, because Ishmael, as people can hear, you don't have a New York accent. So we know that you're not originally from the States. And I think you mentioned it to Carly and I when we first met, that I'm always interested that coming from a different country where I believe hockey is not even a sport, how did you really get into it to find the love of the game?
Well, to be honest, I fell in love with football, your football, USA football, and NFL football. And then I first fell in love with pro football, and then fell in love with college football. And then I realized, there's football is not very popular in Canada, at least not as crazy as it was in hockey. But then I realized, there's an equivalent of the football system in Canada. We've got the OHL, which is the equivalent of college football, and then we've got the NHL, which is the equivalent of NFL. and college football, even when you go there, their games are so expensive. But then, the OHL games, I mean, they're so they're so relatively inexpensive. Like I'm going down on Friday to watch an OHL game featuring Porter Martone of the Brampton Steelheads and Malcolm Spence of the area Otters. And these are two of the top five NHL 2025 NHL prospects. So I mean, I'm getting to watch these guys for 35 Canadian dollars. I mean, come on,
Wow.
I mean, this is just an unbelievable experience. Like, how many people can say that they're watching top prospects who will have the name called in round one next year or did this spring, and you're watching them for 35 Canadian dollars. Like, what? It's
In New
crazy.
York, you can get one hot dog for $35. So look at that. It's pretty much the same
One
thing.
beer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I really think it's awesome. I've worked in media my whole life. I used to work at a couple of New York radio stations, and I've always been frustrated on the lack of, I call it disrespect, that a lot of people in media give the NHL. It's never going to be the top sport. It's always going to be number 4, blah, blah, blah. I've never believed that. I think there are so many more fans out there that people aren't even aware of. And to grow the game as a sport, to get people like yourself into it, that's awesome. That is, super awesome. I mean, talking about myself, I grew up around it, so it was easy for me to fall in love with it. Carly, I mean, I don't really know your whole story about it. Well, you kind of mentioned it when we met, but to come from a totally different country that probably never even saw a hockey game where you grew up, and to fall in love with it as you have now, that's fantastic. And I'm sure that now that you're our stat guy, you're going to fall in love with it even more moving forward. So it's really cool.
I have one last question from the chat, and I just kind of figured it'd be a good way to end this, especially for our stat guy. We have, will Adam Fox win the Norris?
You want me to go first on that? Will Adam Fox win the Norris? No, he will not. Adam Fox is having an off year. I still think he got hurt in the playoffs last year. He actually got hurt last year during the regular season on a knee-to-knee check with Sebastian Aho of Carolina, and then he re-injured it in the playoffs. I think he's been playing a little sore the whole year. He's not been himself. Don't get me wrong, he'll get his share of assists, but the guy has 3 goals this year. 3. 2 of those goals were empty net goals. For Adam Fox, he's never going to be known to be a top defensive player. We need him to man the power play and produce more than he's produced. He's not doing it this year. So there are players like Cale Makar, who's just an unbelievable player. Quinn Hughes. Even my pick right now for the Norris, believe it or not, would be Zach Werenski of Columbus. That guy, I think he's got 18 goals right now as a defenseman. Wow. And he's the reason that Columbus is in contention for a playoff spot this year. But I love Adam Fox. I actually sit at the Ranger games next to his dad. So we've become good friends. And he's a Long Island kid, so he's from the hometown. Maybe the Four Nations face-off will kickstart him to have a better second half. But my answer to that question, and thanks for asking it, is no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm honestly in favor of Cale Makar.
Yeah.
That's my pick. Yeah, I think when you look at his numbers, they go for themselves. Zach Werenski, I think he's got a lot of time in the league to prove himself. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna eventually show up. But I think right now it's Cale Makar's time. Yeah. But Zach Werenski will have his time eventually. Yeah. No doubt about that.
I'm agreeing with Ishmael. I'm gonna go with Makar on this one.
Well, listen, guys, it's been really awesome having you guys together for our first show. Obviously, first show, there's always going to be kinks, and you got to make sure everything comes out smoothly. But I think we did an okay job. I think we did well. What I would like to see, if there are people out there, if you have any topics or anything you'd like us to discuss for our show next week, send them in. We'll look at everything. We'll add them to our topics of discussion. This show will be on every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. That's 4 o'clock in the West Coast. And I think it's also 7 o'clock in Toronto. So we look forward to this. And Hopefully, we'll be adding some other members of our Stadium Rant crew as guests during the season to influence us with their hockey perspective. But I've had a blast doing this, and
Yeah.
like I said, I'll wear a different jersey next week. And like I said, next week, one of the things we'll be able to discuss is the beginning of the Four Nations tournament, because that'll be underway on I believe on the 12th. So
Yeah.
we'll be able to
I
talk about
think that's
that.
Wednesday.
Yeah, and whatever else you guys want to talk about, we're here for it. We appreciate the support. And like I said, this is Pucks Deep. My name's Rob Cattell, and got Carly and Ishmael here, our stat guy. And anything else you guys want to add? And I'll let you sign off for us.
Just want to thank everyone, especially those that have been sticking through this last hour with us. Like Rob said, send in questions or comments. You can always find us on Stadium Rant and then also on social media. So please send that any questions, anything in, so that we can talk about them on our lives. That'd be awesome. Ishmael, last words.
Thank you so much, guys. Like, this means a lot to us. So keep help us, and yeah, we'll always be here. Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Have a great night. Let's go NHL. Bye-bye.